Let's do this thing. Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to the Asia Tech Podcast. Maaike Doyer, a founder and managing partner of Epic Angels, is back on the show. I love when people come back. Thank you so much for coming and doing this.
So good to be here.
Yeah, no, it's really great to have you. And everybody knows you, so we don't need to introduce yourselves. But can you just talk to me? I think the first time we talked was right around the time that Epic Angels, then we had you on again after that to talk about some definitions. But 3 years in, and a bit actually, how is Epic Angels doing?
Really well, really well. We're now at almost 300 female investors.
Wow.
Yeah, based in 27 countries, which is also pretty cool to see that happening, how it's spread all over the world. We still only invest in Asia Pacific. I keep on repeating that, even though our investors are from all over the world, our focus is on Asia Pacific to do the investments there.
Can I just ask you this? How did you get people, how many countries? Say 27 countries. It's a lot of countries. I noticed that you traveled to the US last year as well, and you were in Bangkok recently. Talk to me a little bit about these remote locations and traveling to other places and getting people involved and then getting them to sign up and become part of the network.
Yeah, I mean, I visited 20 countries last year.
Wow.
But that is, I am just a really, really passionate traveler. I've been to 68 countries all over the world. So even secret here, one of my side hustles, I also run a travel business. So, I have travel is in my blood. And indeed, but what we've been seeing is since we invest in Asia Pacific, there's of course a lot of the countries where we are investing where women are saying like, hey, this is cool. You're investing in this local startup. I want to join, right? That is something that's happening. What we see as well, Singaporeans, Singapore is where we started. Singaporeans tend to travel everywhere as well, specifically through Southeast Asia, or they're coming from all the different countries. So they're bringing their friends who are maybe in their home countries or their colleagues who are in different countries. So I think that that's been very organic, been growing. We haven't really put an effort on that to expand throughout the region. It's been very organic.
So this was a very purposeful thing for you and your partner to found. Like you just looked around the market and you said, not enough women are investing in doing angel investing, and not enough of the syndicates that are out there actually include women per se. So we need to build this on our own. But as you go from one country to another country, you were in 20 countries last year. Are there different attitudes that you see and maybe different sort of approaches to risk mitigation, risk management, stuff like that? How is it different in California, than it is in Thailand?
Yeah, I think those are the two opposites that you're picking out here.
I tried.
Specifically US, US is so different compared to Asian. I don't know if there's that big of a difference between Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam. I see a lot of similarities there. I think in general, we see that in Asia, people are less, they're more risk averse, right? Or more risk aware, as the nice way of saying that. But in the US, people are really more used to like, you know what? I believe in this and I'm going to put my money behind this. I don't care if this is going to succeed or not. Sure, hopefully it will, but I believe in this cause. I believe in this founder. I believe this company is doing the right things. And I want to be there on their journey to support that. Even if it goes south, that's fine, right? It's sort of that whole mindset of the American dream, which people know it comes with failures.
Right.
So yes, right, just as every startup comes with failure, they're more comfortable with that.
Do you think there's a certain sense in the US that they're like bragging rights come with the fact that you're an angel investor? Do you know what I mean? And even if none of them work, let's just say one of them works, like it's got to be cool at a cocktail party to say, I was a shareholder in Uber before it went public kind of thing. And even if you own like one share.
Of course, everyone wants to say that. I mean, and it is a cool thing to say. And especially if you are an angel investor, you are a risk taker and you are showing, hey, I put my money where my mouth is. Yes, hopefully it will bring you some returns. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this article that you wrote. Again, I feel like, and we've never met each other face to face, but I feel like every time I talk to you, there's this like deeply embedded passion inside you to just like do the right thing, if nothing else. But also it says it in your, no, but I can feel it, right? And I wonder what it's like in person. But also your LinkedIn profile at the top, it doesn't say like I have this job or I've done this thing or I went to this college. It just says I get stuff done, right? And I'm presuming this didn't start last year or the year before, but it was like when you were a 4-year-old, you're still like, your mom was going, can you sit down? You're like, I'm getting stuff done kind of thing. And that's awesome,
Oh yeah.
right?
My family can tell some fun stories about that. Yeah,
I am sure.
wasn't out there, I guess. Definitely have my own opinion and my own will with that. And indeed, there's not a lot that's stopping me from following that passion or that firm belief
Right,
on just getting that done. I mean, the more I hear, nope, that's not how it works. Like,
right,
okay, cool. Let's figure out how we can make this work. And or like, hey, people say it takes a month to get that done. Well, what kind of smart thing can we do to do that in a week, right?
right.
So, yeah, it's definitely a little bit how I am. And I think, as you said, that article, something was definitely bubbling up in me
Right,
when I saw that happening, where both the UK and Australia, they managed roughly now around the same time, announced that they want to change the regulation for so-called sophisticated investors
right.
or accredited
Accredited
investors.
investors, yeah.
It really frustrated me. I was like, oh my, right? Like, really, is this right now in 2024 the way regulation is thinking that they can control the market? Is this the right way of doing that? I don't think so. So I had to write something about that.
As the world gets smaller, right? As we all get more and more connected, for better or for worse, right? It feels like every new technology that comes around is trying to democratize this or democratize that. Whether it's working or not, we can argue about as well, right? But giving access to information, giving access to sort of the ability to become financially independent, it seems it's going backwards to me to change these rules, as opposed to using alternative types of data and alternative types of analysis to say, you know what? Maybe those rules were okay in the 1950s and 1960s when there just wasn't that much information out there. But today, shouldn't we relax them slowly but surely? What's driving this on that side? And then what's your opinion on it?
Or do it in a different way,
Yeah,
right? All this regulation about accredited investor, and I don't know how much the listeners know about this, right? But there's
tell us.
some countries have this regulation. If you want to invest in something that's a little bit more risky, which is identified as something that is not regulated by the local regulator, like which is SEC in the US, which is the MAS in Singapore, and so on, that is considered more risky, which, by the way, is absolutely true. So those regulators have said, well, anything that doesn't go through me, if you want to invest in those kind of things, you need to be the accredited investor or sophisticated investor, as it's called, and they identify that you need to have a certain income or you need to have a certain asset pool, basically your bank account, that will qualify you to be this accredited investor.
If the idea around the rules is to protect people against scams, right, for unregulated investments, in a way, it kind of makes sense, right? Again,
Absolutely.
in a asymmetrical information world, that seems to make sense to me. We talked a little bit before about that, how there's way more information out there anyway. But if you're making like $100 a week and you want to take $1 or $2, kind of pool it yourself and put $100 or $1,000 into Uber and turn it into $10 million, shouldn't you be able to do that?
And that's the thing for me, right? I mean, by really limiting, because these barriers, income barriers or asset barriers, are pretty high, right? I mean, in
Yeah.
Singapore, 300,000 Sing dollars that you as an individual need to earn, which, by the way, gets into really weird things. For example, right now, one of our investors, she's on maternity leave, so she's not getting that income.
So this was the other thing. This was the other thing I was going to ask you though. Do you think, in a way, it's almost meant to take away the ability for some people to take the income that they do have or the savings that they do have and then turn it into more money so they can be more financially free? I don't want to get back to this idea of an old boys network because I feel like it's a little bit hackneyed, but like the more people that come in, the less likely you as an individual are to make and have investment success, right? So the less people you let in, the more likely you are. Do you think there's some of that going on here as well?
100%. That's actually the Australian government that's the reason why they want to do this, because when they put this regulation out there 20 years ago, it was not even 2% of the population that will qualify
Right.
based upon these barriers. Right now, specifically since you can include your house, and as we know, house prices have been increasing
In
a lot, which
Australia, it's insane.
so the assets has been increasing. So right now, actually, almost 20% of the people qualify as a sophisticated investor. And they were like, oh, no, let's
Too many
exclude them.
people.
Too many people. Let's put it back into certain brackets. And then only looking at this financial barrier, I'm like, I mean, using wealth basically as a proxy for financial literacy, that just really blows my mind.
So talk to me about that as well, right? I think you use this idea of wealth meaning leading to wisdom is just ridiculous, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I really don't buy that at all. I mean, because also what it is a lot, it's indeed the old boys network, playing golf. Oh, I just put $100,000 in this and this startup. Ooh, I can't stay behind. Let me also put the $100,000 in there. And sure, they have the money, right? I mean, and in a way, if they lose it, indeed, who cares, right? Because they have sufficient. But what I really don't understand is, because again, I really agree with the essence of the regulation. You should protect people from doing dumb things
Sure.
that they don't understand, and that they're making decisions that are devastating for them and their families, right? I 100% agree with the foundation of this regulation. It's really the execution behind that I struggle with. Because this guy that played golf and is just throwing 100K in might absolutely not know what they're doing. But what's happening, for example, angels, our angels, they can invest with just $2,500. Are you really telling me you need to earn $300,000, $400,000 to be able to decide if you can invest $2,500?
Sorry, I'm laughing.
Right? It absolutely does not make sense.
And I mean, look, some of the richest people in the world, definitely some of the wealthiest people in the United States, invested in Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, and they all got carried out. They all got carried out on a stretcher, right? Most of them actually did zero due diligence because they just figured if those guys are in, and I use that word purposely, then I'm in.
Yep.
So being rich doesn't make you smart. Is there a way for groups like Epic Angels, now that you have 300 people, it's a lot of people, right? Is there any way for you to have impact on what these regulations are? Do you know what I mean? To literally sit down with the regulators and say, look, we get what you're trying to do, but there are 300 of us. Some of us make $1 million a year. Some of us make $1 million baht a year, but we all want to invest. What are we going to do to make this right? Like, can you put pressure on them?
I'm trying. I definitely have reached out to many of the regulators. They are in general, and I told them, like, I don't want decisions, right? I just really want to have an open brainstorm with you, because I want to really understand your concerns. Because again, I understand the essence of the regulation. I understand what you're trying to achieve, but the world changed. Right now, you no longer have to invest $500,000 in a startup, right? You can do $1,000, $2,500 very easily. So this regulation, as you said, the democratization of these type of assets, it's there already. So it's outdated the way we're doing it. So let's share thoughts and pros and cons and just have an open conversation to begin with, and then brainstorm on, like, what could we do? Could we do a certain sandbox maybe with each other, just to test things out? I mean, the two things that for me sound very straightforward is, for example, saying, you know what, anyone can invest in those type of assets, up to 10K a year, 25K a year, 50K. I don't know what that threshold should be, right? But like, hey, let's put a cap on here just to make sure people really can't go bankrupt or beyond or anything like that.
If you can do payday loans and charge people 17 to 20% a month interest,
Yes.
for people that have less money than people that want to angel invest, then shouldn't they be able to take some of that money and instead lose it by angel investing and learning? Look, I lost a ton of money as an angel investor. I had more money than most, but I still lost a lot of it, and I considered it tuition. But even a guy like Jason Calacanis, right, who not only wrote the book called Angel, but also turned 100 grand into 100 million by investing in Uber, says, don't write a big check when you start. That's ridiculous, right?
Exactly.
And we say this in the stock market too. Like, take $1,000, take $2,000. You don't know what it feels like until you're long a stock that's going down.
Yes.
You just don't know, right?
Start small and allow people already at a young. I have so many women or almost girls, right, that are students right now that are asking me, is there a way that I can participate in Epic Angels? And I was like, oh, I wish, right? I really wish I could make it available to you, but I simply cannot, right? I'm bounded by this regulation. But wouldn't it be amazing if we allow these students as well just to play $1,000 a year, right? They can earn that with their jobs, to just learn, experience, as you say, is like, that wasn't smart, or hey, that was actually really good. But in a very safe environment, learn about this.
But also just to get in the room. I mean, if you think
Yeah.
about it, if I were a 20-year-old young lady at SMU, right, or NUS, and I just walked over to you, like in a restaurant, and said, Maaike, can I talk to you about this? You'd be like, who are you? I mean, you're nicer than that, but you know what I mean. Particularly
Yeah.
if they were asking you about something that was interesting to you. But more importantly, if they could come to a meeting with 6 of their other female friends and learn about angel investing from you because they could put in $1,000 each and now it's $6,000, not $1,000. Well, now
Yeah.
they're in the room with somebody who knows what they're talking about. And that changes the whole game as well, right? It's not even the money necessarily. It's just being part of the party, no?
Absolutely, right. It's really giving people access to that knowledge. And every country has its own regulation. That's making it also very complicated, also for us, right? With
Sure.
27 countries that we have. For example, the UK, they're also are going to double the income threshold and the asset threshold, which again, don't understand. But
Double it.
luckily,
Sorry, go ahead.
they luckily also have what they call like a sort of professional experience. And one of the criteria, if you don't meet those financial criteria, if you are a member of an angel network for 6 months or longer, you're in. So I literally had one of the angels joining, and she said, I noted the date in my calendar and I put a reminder 6 months from now. Now I can finally invest, right? Because that's why I want to join, so that I'm actually a member of a network. I like that, actually. I like it that the UK government is saying, you know what, if you're part of a network, we're assuming that a network is educating you, that indeed you're discussing information with each other. You're not just making a decision on your own. You're better off, and then you qualify even if you don't hit the income criteria. So that is already an example for me. It's like, yeah, that's a good one.
So here are 2 questions from that. One is, if I need to be part of an angel investing network for 6 months, during that time, I'm not allowed to invest. Is that correct?
That's correct. Although the UK is making it a little complicated, they're now still debating whether or not you can show pitch decks to that group.
Come on.
I'm like, hold on.
So you can come into the movie theater, but keep your eyes closed when the movie's on.
Yeah. How can you learn, right? I mean, because you have to learn first. I mean, I am actively speaking with these young women, as we're just talking about.
Right.
A couple of them actually joined us as scouts, because that was a really great way for them, at least, to
Yeah.
get access to information. So they're helping us. And of course, they're looking into the pitch decks, because they're purely doing it from a scout perspective, not from an investment perspective. But they're learning a ton, of course, about the whole investment landscape. I mean, also there, it's like, is that not allowed then? That's just strange, because this is pure education. I really think more can be done with education. I mean, I'm also a professor here at the Singapore Management University. And I'm like, speaking with MAS about this as well, like, what if we set up a certified course or whatever, not, right? You can certify this. I can do this together with SMU, with NUS. I'll pull
MAS?
yeah, right. And I'll pull in some other VCs and angel networks, because it's not about Epic Angels. It's really about the ecosystem. And as an ecosystem, I'm convinced we all want to work together to do this. You certify this, dear MAS, and then everyone who took the course, who graduates the course, is automatically an accredited investor. Wouldn't that be amazing? And so simple.
Yeah, it would be so
And
much.
see a lot of
It would be so much better that way. And actually, that was the other thing that I was going to ask: is there an educational part of this? But it is. But here's the other thing too. If you're a scout, you're probably going to understand businesses that are targeting, and I'm going to use a catch-all term for millennials. There's a term for after millennials, but I forget what it is. Those businesses may be targeted towards you. You may be better qualified to analyze them than somebody who's my age, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you work with some of the other angel investment syndicates in Singapore, and also like the Hustle Fund does something here, right? And then they do some education stuff around there as well. Not just them, but are you working with other groups to keep putting this pressure on some of these regulations?
We should do more together, I feel. I also have the feeling that it's maybe even more relevant for Epic Angels since we also have a pretty low barrier to enter. Most of the other networks, you need to invest 25K or whatnot,
Really?
right? You're really talking about little different amounts. So then, of course, it starts to make a bit more sense to actually be an accredited investor because you're talking larger amounts here. We're doing the small amounts. So that's where you can see that there's more people that are on the edge, or like the woman that's on pregnancy, on maternity leave, as I just mentioned. She doesn't qualify. What do we do?
Yeah, but that's so strange, right? Because she could have made $500,000 last year, and now she's just going to have a baby, and now somehow having the
Yeah,
baby makes her less educated about investing. Feels like a weird outcome.
exactly. And she has this real badass job, right?
Right,
And
right.
if she's working, she absolutely qualifies. But she just put a little pause in there for her baby, which is totally normal. But then she gets like, no, 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 now you no longer qualify.
Yeah, you can't win for losing here. Oh, this stuff is so hard to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. If this same lady that you say has a badass job, right, is making a ton of money, leaves her baby at home and doesn't take care of it, she's going to take flack from a whole other cohort of the population saying you don't care enough about your baby. Like, why can't she do both of these things at the same time? I don't understand. I don't understand. And it's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer, but I'm just saying it makes no sense. Can I ask you this? How did you come up with the $2,000 number? And let's say, and I'm just going to use me. I know I'm not a lady, but let's say like 7 ladies come up with $2,000 themselves and put it together. Can just like one of them join with 14 grand? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just one with 2?
So how do we come up with that? It's always a bit, as an angel network, you're basically a multi-sided platform yourself. You have 2 customer segments, the angels and the startups,
Right.
and we need to keep both happy. So looking at this from the startup perspective, I want to make sure as a network, on average, we invest $100,000 in every startup.
Real money.
The
It's real
Yeah,
money. Yeah.
real money.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because if we put the real money in there, that means we're seen like, oh, that's a serious investor. That attracts better deals, right? And if I get better deals, the angels are happy again, right? So there's that a model there. For the angels, I would love to lower it even to $1,000. That's my goal.
Right.
But at the same time, I want to make sure I get on average at least 100K for every startup. So that is the balance that I need to find, because if I do 5K for every deal, if I only need 20 angels to get to
Right.
100K.
Right.
If I do 1,000, I need 100 to get there. So, I mean, we're now at 300, so we're growing, and that's luckily we've shown now we can lower the amount, and hopefully we can lower it further the more we grow as a base.
Has there been any other pushback besides you in the UK and Australia against some of these rules? And now that you build out, like, does Epic Angels have I'm going to say an office, but like a group of people that are associated in Australia and in the UK that are fighting this fight as well, or at least making the case to the regulators that this is not the right way to do it? And are there other angel investment groups that you're working with in those countries to kind of make that point?
Yeah, we do work together a lot. Again, I think it always is so much effort, right, to convince the government that lobby. Oh my, right? I think we can fill a whole other episode about
Yeah.
that. But it really is a lobby, and most of us were so passionate about the angels, about the startups, and then the government is often in a whole other mindset that it takes quite something to really make that happen. And to invest a lot of your energy that you at that moment then cannot invest in startups or in angels. So that is tricky, but I'm convinced we should do it. We should just indeed pull together and sit down with the MAS to get started with here in that. We're doing a lot in Australia. Our angel base in Australia is really growing a lot. We have our local collective there now as well, a full team of angels with a captain. We have local captains in all the different countries where we are. So these women really help to connect with the other networks, to connect indeed with authorities and know a bit better what's going on the ground than from Singapore only.
Do you have any, and do you tell these stories as well about some people that joined Epic Angels at the beginning that were a little bit, not wishy-washy, but just like weren't sure that they should be there. And now I've kind of flipped the bit into like recruiting other ladies coming in going, this is the greatest thing you'll ever do in your life. And you're going to lose some money at first necessarily, but after a while, just the confidence that it gives you. Like I remember the first time I did a big trade when I was sitting on the fixed income trading desk in Tokyo. I remember it explicitly, and I could tell you the whole story. The market was moving around really, really fast. I mean, really fast. And for the bond market, that's not normal, right? It's a slow moving market. And this guy wanted to do like a $500 million trade. And that's a big number. And after we did the trade, we got out of it. We made like $500,000. And I just remember thinking, okay, I can do this. I know how to do this now. Right. But just the confidence that it gave me in real time was amazing. And I'm curious if you have any of those stories from Epic Angels as well, where some people come in like not 100% sure. And then they're like, I got this.
Every single week. Every single week. You know, honestly, this is what drives us a lot. I think if you look at our angel base, half of them are more seasoned investors.
Okay.
They have done this before. And about half of them have never, ever invested before. So we really helped them to go from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, every Thursday morning, we have a 30-minute Ask Me Anything. So anyone can just dial in, be part of that, and ask all the stupid questions that they have. I'm like, oh, how does this work? I mean, I got the question the other day. What is a safe note exactly, right? and you know, so it varies between the experience of the angels, and that is so cool about having this collective where women really see. I think they see two things. Of course, it helps them to do it. But they also start to realize they already have a lot more knowledge than they think.
Right.
Just like, you know, if you look at it in general, if there's a job ad out there, men apply even if they know they don't qualify, like, yeah, whatever, right? I'm just gonna apply for this job. I will get there. While women tend to be like, no, I don't qualify, so I'm not gonna apply. You see the same thing happening in angel investing, where men are like, I've never done this, but hey, I have $1,000 or $2,000 spare. Let me just do it and
I
throw
should
this
be
at
amazing at
startup.
this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Where women are more like, no, I first need like a full education. And I'm like, no, you already have the basics. It's already in you. It's already there. And what we try to bring with Epic Angels is sort of that courage to invest, because honestly, it's more about courage than about anything else.
Yeah, it's about risk management and risk mitigation. Can we get back to the course you were talking about at SMU, or the desire to maybe build an accreditation course there? When I was in college, I studied economics, and one of the courses that I took, while not purely economic based, was a course on stock market investing. And the whole course was just like a competition for one semester of pick a bunch of stocks and figure out why. Yeah, and you could do the same thing in the startup world. Here are the 10 pitches. Which one of them will get invested? It's so easy, and in a way, it's really innocent, and there's no risk associated with it. But I should tell you this. Once a year, I think, or once a semester, I can't remember, but my friend is a professor at a local university, and she asks me, she teaches a course on innovation. And every now and then, I can't know what it is, because the weather in Thailand never changes, so I never know like when it is. We teach a course, and then we tell them how to build a pitch deck and how to build a business. And at the end, we make everybody in the room, and normally there's somewhere between 70 and 100 people, right? 7 to 8 teams. We make them pick the winner before I choose the winner.
Yeah.
To show them what it's like to make an investment. We give them a certain amount of points, which is equal to money. And we just say, which one is going to win? Which one would you invest in? And it's a really interesting thing to see people not invest in their own company, but think, oh my God, that team's idea was better than mine. I'll invest in that. But it works, I think, no?
It works. I mean, I've done a lot of variations on this. I even set up like almost like a sort of a casino, place your bets, right? And everyone gets a stack of fake money. Here are the different ones. Put your money down, right? It's your fake money. Just put it down. What we often do as well, specifically financial well-being is a big topic also within corporates.
Should be.
So we've done some workshops within corporates about angel investing, where we do bring startup along, or even just a pitch from a startup, where indeed people can ask the questions. And of course, we always end, would you invest? Yes or no?
Right.
But just that simulation and making it real, even though there is not a real investment attached to it, but getting through the whole notion, the anxiety as well, like, am I really going to invest? It works. It's really helpful to do.
When you and Hester first started Epic Angels, did you understand sort of the depth of issues in which you were going to need to be involved? Do you know what I mean? When you first started, wasn't it just like, we know women should be investing more. We know angel investing is kind of the top of the funnel. It's the best place to learn about it. It's the riskiest, but with the highest payoff as well. Like, all these things are great. We can get together and talk about it. Did you ever think like, oh, we're going to have to like interface with the government and try to convince them not to change the regulations?
No, that part was definitely not on the list. And it's education has always been there, especially the courage to invest. I mean, I am a true number person. I'm always the one running everything financially. Also in my household, I invest all my husband's side of his savings and so on, and his pension. I do all of that, which I know is pretty unique as the woman to do that. But it was because I was speaking with other women, and then I was like, oh, you don't do that? Oh, that's strange. Oh, your husband does that? Weird, right? So for me, that was weird because I was so used to doing it. And that was definitely what triggered us. Hey, we need more female investors. We need to educate women better, that they should take control and know how this works.
You know, again, I've been here for so long, it's hard for me to tell what's normal anymore, right? But I get the sense that in an Asian household, the women have more control over the finances, even if it's the husband that's earning more money. I know in Japan that that's almost 100% true. At least it was when I was living there. But I wonder then if they're making investment decisions as well.
It depends. Like Shanghai is very dominated by women. I think the men just have to give all their income every month to their savings account to the wife, who then will take care of everything. So for sure, I see a lot of those strong women more in the Asian culture. I feel it's a lot more about safeguarding the assets than necessarily investing the assets. And I think that should be combined.
So let me share an anecdote with you, and maybe this drives the way I feel about all this stuff. When my grandfather, and I don't think I shared this story with you, but when my grandfather was 7 years old, he stuttered. And this was in the 19-teens in the United States. And they made fun of him so much and beat him up so much that he just left school when he was 7. But he was actually quite brilliant. And he and his brother actually controlled like the entire fruit trade on the United States, on the East Coast of the United States. They made a lot of money. But he couldn't do math at all. He could barely write his own name. But when he got married, which he did do to my grandmother, right? She was a mathematical genius. And she literally did what you said. She gave him money every month. He was like, I don't know how much money I have. She's like, here's some.
Here, have fun.
And I think I grew up seeing that. And it must have had some kind of impact on me. And I think that's part of the reason why I look at what you do. And I think it's so important. And I love, there's a certain kind of person I like who looks at something that they know is wrong and says, I can't unsee it. And I have to try to fix it or disintermediate it. I'm dead serious. So you're laughing, but I really believe this. And that was why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
I hope some regulators are listening to this one as well.
They will for sure.
And please reach out to me. I would love to have just an open brainstorm on what could we do? What are some options that we can explore that keeps the essence of the regulation? Because again, I really firmly believe in the essence of the regulation, but also is more adjusted to the day and age and what we're living right now, and giving people access to information and take risk in a very controlled way, without the risk, of course, that they're losing everything that they have.
I'm going to end there. Maaike Doyer, founder and managing partner of Epic Angels. This was a great conversation. Anytime you want to come back on the show or recommend someone to be on the show, let's do it. For everybody who liked this conversation, please subscribe to the Asia Tech Podcast on Spotify, on Apple, anywhere we are. Let's do more of this stuff. Thank you again.
Thank you.